In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His last and beloved Messenger Muhammad, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. This is the fourth episode of a program entitled The Superiority of the Quran. And the objectives of this program are the following. Firstly, to strive to make the word of Allah God supreme by delivering the message of Allah God contained in the Quran to people. The second objective is to show people and teach the best technique of delivering the message of Allah to people in this day and age. And the third objective is to show how to practically implement the knowledge of the Quran in our life, in our everyday life. So regarding the second point about the best technique or method of delivering the message, Allah teaches us, and we can learn from the Quran, that the message of Allah to people is the same throughout the ages. But what changes is the method of delivery, or the signs that Allah God Almighty places with the message. For example, with Prophet Moses, peace upon him, Allah gave him the signs which are related to the main theme of the people of that age, which was magic. Something related to magic but far superior to it. And the same methodology continues with Prophet Jesus, peace upon him. When he appeared in Palestine, people were healing so many illnesses with herbal remedies. So Allah gave him the signs of healing the leopard and the blind and bringing the dead back to life with the permission of Allah, something related to medicine but far superior to it. So the question is, what signs that Allah God Almighty must accompany with the Quran in this day and age? To know these signs, we just need to know the main theme of the people of this age. And without a doubt, the main theme of the people of this age is knowledge. People, they want to know about space, about genetics, about economics. They want to know. So the main theme of the people of this age is knowledge, without a doubt. So the sign of the Quran must be something related to that theme, which is knowledge, but far superior to it. And from here comes this program, is that I will show in this program problems in each and every branch of knowledge that people failed to solve with all of their knowledge in this day and age. And how does the knowledge of the Quran give the solution to these problems in a matter of seconds? So, the sign, something related but far superior. And each episode will be divided into three parts, which are the ones you see on the screen. The first one is presenting a current problem in the knowledge of people. The second part showing the Quranic solution to the problem. And the third part illustrating how the Quranic solution can be implemented practically. So this is episode 4, and it is the superiority of the Quran in the field of mathematics and coding, in this field, with the subtitle, the number 19, a new type of coding. So let's show a very big problem in mathematics and coding. Now, as you can see on the screen, you can see on top of the picture a text which is in the name of Allah, God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, and you can see an image and you can see an audio file. Now, the way this information is coded, meaning using a code to store this information. So coding means using a certain code to store information. So the way coding is done nowadays is using zeros and ones. So everything is coded into zeros and ones, a sequence of zeros and ones. And this is the adopted way of coding in the digital age we live today. So changing text, storing text, images, audio and video, all in zeros and ones. But we have big problems with this, which are the ones you see on the screen. Firstly, increasing file sizes due to the use of zeros and ones only. Now, in this digital age, we need higher and higher definition, for example, for images and videos, and audio as well. But the problem here is that when you want high definition, you need to use more and more zeros and ones to give you the quality that you need. The more zeros and ones, meaning a bigger file size. So the file sizes are getting bigger and bigger. For example, in the past, we used to talk about kilobytes. Now we're talking about megabytes, gigabytes, and terabytes. And that's a problem. Why? Because it makes it more difficult to transfer files, to download files using the internet. It makes it more difficult when you have very big file sizes. The second problem is increasing demand for larger storage media. Flash drives, hard disks, you need bigger and bigger capacities. And that gives so much challenge on technology. Thirdly, increasing power consumption for electronic devices, because we have bigger and bigger files, higher and higher definition. You need faster processors to process all of these zeros and ones, and that will make you need more power. More power gives you problems of cooling the devices, and a lot of kind of challenges in this field. Fourthly, limiting computer speed due to the need to access large numbers of zeros and ones. Now, the problem is when you have big file sizes, you need faster and faster computers, and the speed of the computer is limited by all of these zeros and ones. So, after seeing these problems, is there a better way to code information? Is there a better way to store information and to access it and to read it? You will see in the second part of this episode that there is. From the guidance of the Quran, Allah shows you a better and far superior way of coding information. So let's go to the second part. Now let's see the Quranic solution to the problem of coding that I showed, to these problems with the way we code information nowadays. Now, in the Quran, we can know the answer for all of these problems in a single verse. And this is verse number 30 of chapter 74 of the Quran, which reads, "Over it are 19." So in this Quranic verse, Allah mentions a certain number, which is the number 19. It's the only verse in the Quran where Allah God Almighty mentions a certain number, specifically just stating that number, which is number 19. And if we continue reading in the same chapter, we reach verse 35, where it reads, translation, "Verily, it is one of the greatest signs." So Allah is telling us that the sign that Allah placed in the number 19 is one of the greatest signs of Allah. So, we have now a question. What is this great sign in 19? What is this sign and how it links to coding? Now, with any sign of Allah mentioned in the Quran and the signs that you see around you in creation, to understand this sign, you need just to ponder upon it. There are no prerequisites. It's not difficult. It's not composed of riddles. You just need to ponder upon it. Think. So, to know the sign in the number 19, you need to ponder upon the number 19. Easy as that. So if we ponder upon the number 19, the easiest way is that to break it down to its basic components. And number 19 is just 1 plus 1 plus 1 until you get 19. It is the summation of 19 units. That's 19. And if we take this a step further and we represent these 19 units by geometrical shapes, either circles or hexagons, we get the geometrical representation of the number 19 as you see on the screen. This is number 19, but from a geometrical point of view. I hope that's clear. So, we have this, let's say, geometrical code of 19. This is 19 in a kind of geometrical way. Again, what is this great sign that Allah placed in this shape? This code of 19. Now, again, to understand to solve or to understand this code of 19, you need to go to the book of the one who sent down this code, which is Allah God Almighty. So in order to understand this code, you need to read the Quran, the instruction manual that will answer your questions. So let's do that and see. So if we go to the Quran, we see that Allah God Almighty stored a lot of information in the number 19. As you will see, that this number 19, it contains the information for the whole universe, the whole creation. So Allah coded the information for all the creation you see, all the mechanics of creation, everything in creation in this number. Again, you will see one of the greatest signs of Allah, that He stored the information of creation in this number. Who can do this level of coding? To store the information of the universe in a single number. Imagine if you want to store some of the information of the universe in zeros and ones. Can you imagine the file sizes that you require? So what about storing this information in a single number? Let's see. Of course, this kind of it's a big subject. It's all in my website. But now I'll give you examples or samples of the information stored and coded in the number 19. So the first sample of information is that Allah stored the story of creation in the number 19. Let's see how. In the Quran, the last revelation of Allah God to people, Allah tells us in chapter 57 verse 3 the following: He is the first and the last, the most high and the most near, and He is the all-knower of everything. So in this Quranic verse, Allah is telling us that He is the first, that nothing was before Him. So if we go and look at the left picture, this is the geometrical representation of the number 19. You can see that it's composed of 3 layers. You have a layer in the center which is composed of a single hexagon, and then you have the second layer shown in blue is composed of 6 hexagons, 6 geometrical shapes. And the third layer, which is the one in orange, is composed of 12 hexagons, 12 geometrical shapes. A hexagon is a geometrical shape having 6 sides. So you can see that the information that Allah is the first, that nothing was before Him when He created the heavens and the earth, this is coded for by the first layer, which is composed of a single geometrical shape, 1 hexagon. So the single hexagon in the center codes for Allah God, the Creator, the One, where nothing was before Him. So you can see how storing information in a geometrical shape in the number 19. So that was the beginning of creation. There was Allah and nothing was with Him. Then in chapter 11 verse 7 of the Quran, Allah says, and He it is who has created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and His throne was on the water, that He might try you, which of you is the best in deeds. But if you were to say to them, you shall indeed be raised up after death, those who disbelieve would be sure to say, this is nothing but obvious magic. So in this Quranic verse, Allah is telling us that He created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. And this is coded for by the second layer in the number 19, which is composed of 6 hexagons. So 6 units, this code for the creation of the universe in 6 days. So Allah is teaching you the sequence of creation from the number 19. Look at the level of coding, how information is stored in this single number. Then Allah tells us in chapter 9 verse 36 the following: verily the number of months with Allah God is 12 months. So was it ordained by Allah God on the day when He created the heavens and the earth. So let's stop there. We see that Allah is telling us that the number of months that Allah stated is 12. So after Allah created the heavens and earth in 6 days, you were created and you live a number of years in this universe, and each year is composed of 12 months. This 12 months is coded for by the third layer, the one shown in orange, and it's composed of 12 hexagons, 12 geometrical shapes, coding for the number of months in a year and the years a person lives in this creation. So to summarize this, you see that Allah is telling us the story of creation. He coded the story of creation in the number 19, such that the first layer, which is composed of a single unit, codes for Allah God, the Creator, the One, where nothing was prior to Him. Then the second layer, shown in blue, codes for the creation of the universe in 6 days, and the third layer, shown in orange, codes for the number of months in a year and the years a person lives in this creation. So this is just a glimpse of the amount of information stored in number 19. This is just one sample. You see another samples. Again, I want to think, who can do this level of coding? No one can do this except Allah, the Creator, the one who knows everything. He is the only one who can do this level of coding. Okay, also, if we go in reverse, we see that Allah is telling us, and He codes the information about the end of creation in 19. So if we go in reverse, we see that when the day of judgment comes, Allah will cause every living thing to die. So the third layer, which represents the number of months in a year that a creature lives, that will be gone. We come back to having only the heavens and the earth, and nothing is living within the heavens and the earth. Then Allah will end the creation of the heavens and the earth, so the second layer will be gone. What remains is just the first layer, composed of a single unit which codes for Allah, God. He is the first and the last. So again, you see more information coded in the number 19. So let's see what other information Allah stored in this number. If we ponder upon it, you see, brothers, just looking at the number, just pondering upon it, there is no kind of special skills or prerequisites. You're just pondering upon the number, just pondering upon it, looking at it in different ways. Allah also coded the structure of creation in 19. How? If you look at this number shown on the left, the number 19, you see that the basic structural unit is a hexagon, a geometrical shape having 6 sides. So, since the number 19 from a geometrical point of view is based on the hexagonal shape, this means that this hexagon is the basic structural unit of creation. So, we learn from this that in creation, the basic structural unit on which Allah created the whole universe is the hexagonal shape. Again, since the number 19 from a geometrical point of view is based on the hexagonal shape, this means that the basic structural unit in creation is the hexagon. We learn from this that Allah created everything based on the hexagonal shape. And let me give you examples. You see on the right the hexagonal design of bees' habitation. And you can see how it's clearly built, that Allah created it based on the hexagonal shape. Another example, you see the example of a snowflake shown on the right, that water, when it solidifies, becomes ice, it takes the hexagonal shape. Again, another example, the DNA molecule. If you look at the bases of the DNA, you can see that Allah created them based on the hexagonal shape as well. So, and this applies to everything in creation. Everything is based on the hexagonal shape. So this again, you see how coding information in a single number. Imagine if you want to write this in zeros and ones. Can you just imagine the file sizes that you need? Another example, how Allah coded the energy and the mechanics of energy in the number 19. Just looking at the number in different ways. That's it. Again, if you look at the number 19 shown on the left, and we do a simple exercise, just dividing the hexagons into triangles. Just dividing the hexagons into triangles as shown on the right. And then we place circles, red circles, at the point of intersection of these triangles. And we imagine that there is an energy source in the center of the shape, as you can see on the right. Now, we learn from this that energy propagates firstly by quantized amounts of energy, which are now called photons. And these quantized amount of energy, they are represented by the red circles. Also, we learn from this that the pattern of propagation, that the photons are arranged in a hexagonal arrangement. Again, we learn from this that the photons, when they propagate from the source, they are arranged in a hexagonal arrangement. And if we compare this to how energy propagates in creation, as you can see on the screen, you can see on the right that indeed photons, they propagate in a hexagonal pattern, as we learn from the number 19 exactly. Here's another picture of it. You can see, for example, an energy source, which is the sun, and on the right you see these kind of white circles. These are photons, And you can see, glory be to Allah God Almighty, they propagate from their source in a hexagonal pattern, as we learn from the number 19 exactly. So again, you see the coding of more information in a single number. And this is the level of coding that is impossible for people to do. And it's far superior to what they do in this day and age regarding coding information and storing information. So let's take another example. Even you will see now that Allah is also stored in this number a way for you to get equations, not only description, equations and graphs from this number as well. It contains the knowledge of creation, everything. So let's see how we can calculate energy density from the number 19. Again, looking at the number 19, dividing it into triangles and placing circles at the intersection points of these triangles, and imagining that the energy source in the center. And if we do this simple exercise, very simple exercise, let's just take two photons, as you can see on the left. Two red circles representing two photons propagating and going away from the energy source, from the center. Now, we want to plot the energy density versus distance from the source. What do I mean by this? The energy density is the amount of photons per unit volume or per unit area, depending if you are looking at 3D space or 2D space. So let's start. At the first level, which is the first line, you see above the yellow circle, you see we have two photons and distance between them is 1. So if we divide 2 by 1, you get an energy density of 2. And if you look at the graph on the right, you see at the first point, distance from center 1, the energy density is 2. 2 photons per unit length. Now the second level, which is the second line above the yellow circle, we have 2 photons, but the distance between them now is 2. So 2 over 2 is 1. So that's the second point on the curve on the right. The third layer, you have 2 photons and the distance is 3 between them. So 2 over 3, you get 0.67. And that's the third point on the graph. If you continue doing this, you'll get the graph shown on the right. And this is the energy density versus distance as learned from 19. So glory be to Allah, from this number we were able to derive the curve for the relationship between the energy density from the center from the distance from the center. So if we compare this to what people found by experiments, so the graph shown on the right is the one we learned from the number 19. The one on the left is the graphs that people found by experiments on calculating the energy density from the distance from the energy source. And you can see, glory be to Allah, a perfect match between the two curves. Perfect match. And here is another kind of two graphs. The one on the left is obtained from computer simulations, and the one on the right from the number 19. Again, perfect match between them. So these examples, brothers and sisters, I showed you with the help of Allah a new way of coding from the Quran using the number 19. And I want you to think, please, that I told you that Allah sends the signs which are related to the main theme of the people of this age. So now we are living in a digital age, coding everything we need to code information. So Allah shows you superiority of knowledge of Allah in the Quran. And that establishes a common bridge. You can deliver information to people because He loves computers and digital kind of coding and all of this. So you talk to Him, there's a common bridge. And that will make Him come closer to the revelation of Allah to people, this book of guidance. And that will be a way for Him to have happiness in this life and the hereafter. And Allah will give you so much reward because you saved a person from the torment of the hellfire. Allah will give you so much reward for this. Now, in the third part of this episode, we'll see how to practically implement this knowledge from the Quran in our life. So let's go to the third part. So in the third part, we will see how to apply this Quranic knowledge in our life. Now, if we go back and look at the code of 19, and looking at the main link in this geometrical shape, you see that the main link between the elements comprising the shape is the one you see on the right. That the three, let's say, walls or sides, they are linked together in this shape, having an angle of 120 degrees between them. So the angle between the links in the code of 19 is the angle of 120. So we learn from this that the optimal link, how to link three elements together in creation, should be on an angle of 120 degrees. So in creation, if you want to link things together, you want to build something, the best angle to have the three sides or three walls or the three supports together 120 degrees. And let me give you illustrations of this, how to apply this practically in our life. Let's take the example of optimal road design. Now, as you can see on the screen, if you have three roads that you want to link together, the way we do it today is mostly based on 90 degrees angles. And this creates so many problems. Firstly, that when a car wants to go to the side road, it needs to deaccelerate and needs to slow down so much to do that. And that will create traffic congestion and problems, and even mechanically to the car, it will do problems with the brakes and so forth. So is there a better way? Yes. On the left, if we learn this, apply this 120 degrees angles, we see that if we design our roads, if we arrange the roads in 120 degrees, we see that when the car wants to go to the side road, it doesn't need to deaccelerate, slow down that much, and that will maintain a smooth kind of flow of traffic. And also, a person would not need to use brakes that much, and that will prolong the life of the car and its kind of quality as well. So you can see this practical implementation of the code of 19 in our life, in the design of roads. Another example, in ventilation systems. Now, when you want to design ducts to carry either hot or cold air to rooms in a house or a factory, we need two main things. We need minimum vibration and noise in the ducts, and we need minimum loss of fluid pressure. We need to use the minimum energy to maintain the flow of air or fluid around the system. Now, the way we design these ducts today, again, based on our intelligence and trial error approach on 90 degrees ducts. But the Quranic solution is 120 degrees. The optimal link in creation is the one based on 120 degrees, not 90. So let's compare computer simulations. If we make these ducts with the 90 degrees like the one shown on the right, and with 120 degrees as we learned from the code of 19. Now you can see that the computer simulation gives you that there is a loss of fluid pressure, a big loss of fluid pressure in the 90 degrees ducts you see on the right. But this loss in pressure is so much reduced when we change the angle to 120 as shown on the left. That's a very kind of a big advantage. The other thing is that when you look again on the right, you see that the flow is not laminar. The flow there is vortices and turbulent flow, and that produces vibrations and sounds in the ducts. But on the left, you see that in the 120 degrees angle, there is a smooth flow of fluid, and that gives you minimum vibration and sound, which is something really good. Again, if you look at this fluid pressure within the ducts, again, based on the 90 degrees shown on the right, you have excessive loss in pressure in branching conduits. But if we do the designs based on the 120 degrees angles, we have, as shown on the left, we have minimum loss in pressure in the branching conduits. So again, you can see how we can practically implement knowledge of the Quran. Let me give you a couple of examples. Water pipes. Again, when we deliver water to our home from the main kind of pipe in the road, again, people, they used to do it, and they are doing it at mostly 90 degrees angles between the pipes, the main pipe and the side pipe or the branching pipe, as shown on the left. Again, that creates vibrations, loss of pressure, so many problems. Now, if we change the design of these water pipe networks to 120 degrees angles, we get smoother flow, minimum vibrations, longer life for the pipes. Again, more advantages. The last example is the design of wireless networks for mobiles and so forth. Again, the way people used to do this, to place the mobile transmission towers or these kind of wireless towers, to place them in a kind of square arrangement like the one shown on the bottom right. And that will, the problem with that, they will give you a small kind of smaller coverage for the network and weaker signal. Now, people after trial error approach, they found that placing these towers in a hexagonal cell arrangement like the one shown on the upper right gives you a bigger coverage and a stronger signal strength. And again, we see that from the number 19, Allah is teaching us that the optimal link in creation is the one based on 120 degrees, the hexagonal design. So, we saw, brothers and sisters, the amount of information stored in the number 19. This is just a glimpse of it. If you go to my website, you see more and more information. And as you can see on the screen, the current way of coding using zeros and ones, I showed you today the Quranic solution for this problem using the number 19. And this will open in the future so many avenues for a new type of coding using the number 19. I just want to leave you with this last question. You looked at these examples and how Allah coded the knowledge of creation in the number 19. So I want to ask you a question to ponder upon, please. Who can do this level of coding? Who can do this level of coding? I would like you, if you please, ponder upon this question. And to know more details about the sign in the number 19, please visit my website at www.quran-miracle.com, and you can email me at zaidquran@gmail.com, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all.